Dubai in shock. The truth about Fazza es a year-old secret lover. Dubai breathes beneath a golden sun, and the towers watch the desert horizon, where whispers rise like soft desert winds, carrying a truth many feared to speak, a truth wrapped in years, in silence, in the footsteps of a woman whose age was a crown, whose past shaped the unseen corners of a royal heart. She walked in shadows of palaces, where marble floors echo the secrets of ages, and though 60 years shaped her voice, her presence carried the softness of moonlit dunes, timeless, untouched by the rush of the world, her steps gentle, her heart fierce, and in that stillness, a story began. Fazza moved like a falcon born for open skies, yet his heart carried deserts, storms, echoes, memories unknown to many. He was a prince, but beneath the robes of duty, a man whose soul sought more than youthful beauty, more than shallow praise, more than fleeting glances. His heart searched for a wisdom, a softness, a strength that lived only in one woman. She watched him long before the world knew his name, not as a ruler, not as a royal son, but as a soul searching for meaning, and in her eyes he found a horizon he could rest upon, a calm beyond the tides of royal expectation. She became a compass, guiding him through storms the world never saw. They met not in hidden rooms, but in quiet gardens where old trees listened, and the desert breathed warm night air. She spoke of life in ways that made time pause. She carried the fragrance of memories from decades past, and he listened, not as a prince, but as a man touched by truth. Their bond was not of scandal, not of forbidden longing, but of hearts meeting across the vast stretch of years. She was 60, yet the world never understood. That age does not dim the soul. That wisdom can be sweeter than first love. That time can polish a heart to its brightest shine. In her presence, he felt seen, not as the world saw him, but as the child once lost in echoes of royal halls, as the dreamer seeking a place where he could lay down his crown, as the man whose heart beat quietly beneath the roar of public eyes. She became the flame that warmed his winters, the truth he dared not speak, the name he murmured to the desert sky. When the world believed he slept, her hands carried stories of years he had not lived, yet he wanted to learn them all, to walk through her memories, to breathe in the wisdom of every season she survived. But Dubai, a city of light, a city of rumors, a city always hungry for a story, never understood the purity woven between them. Whispers grew like restless sandstorms. Rumors turned to thunder. And soon the tale of a 60-year-old woman, linked to a royal heart, shook the city that never sleeps. Yet beneath every rumor, beneath every voice, beneath every gasp of shock, there lived one truth. Fazza did not love her for her age, but for her soul, for the way she carried her heart, for the way she knew his storms before he spoke, for the silence she offered, for the truth she held. And as Dubai whispered, as the world, the desert night grew deeper, as their story unfolded in quiet corners of a kingdom, where lantern light trembled softly, and shadows carried memories only two hearts understood. The woman of 60 years stood beneath an ancient tree, its branches curved like the hands of time, holding her secrets gently, and Fazza walked toward her, not as a prince wrapped in duty, but as a soul searching for the warmth he found only in her presence. Her eyes held galaxies he could not name, worlds shaped by seasons he had never lived, sorrows she carried alone, joys she tucked away in the folds of her heart. And though time had drawn gentle lines upon her face, to him those lines were pathways, maps of survival, roads of courage, and he followed them with the reverence of a poet, tracing the echoes of every year she had breathed before he arrived. She asked for nothing from him, no promises, no declarations, no dreams of crowns. Her love was a river, quiet, steady, flowing with a grace untouched by the noise of the world. And in that stillness, he found his own heart mirrored, found a version of himself the world would never see, a man stripped of titles, stripped of expectation, stripped of the desert storms that followed royal blood. He knelt beside her as the wind whispered across the dunes, carrying memories both old and new, and she lifted her hand, placing it against the beating pulse of his spirit. He closed his eyes, feeling the truth of her, the warmth of a love that needed no words, no youth, no permission from the world that circled around them like restless birds. In her touch he felt centuries, and he breathed them in like sacred air. Dubai moved around them, the city lights flickering in the distance, towers rising to the heavens, roads alive with the footsteps of millions. Yet within their quiet world, time slowed until it stood still, until it bowed to the depth of what lived between them. Age held no rule, no boundary, no wall. Only a reminder that love grows stronger when touched by wisdom, when nurtured by a soul that has survived storms of its own. The woman looked at the prince, her gaze soft, filled with a strength shaped by decades. She understood the weight he carried, the unspoken wounds, the silent expectations, the duty stitched into every breath he took. She saw the boy who once dreamed beneath starlit skies, the man who walked alone, the heart hidden beneath layers of royal silence. And she held him, not with arms, but with presence, with a love that stood unwavering. He spoke to her not with voice, but with the way he sat close, with the way his breath trembled in the cool night air, with the way his heart leaned toward hers as though it had found its home. And she listened, for listening was her greatest gift, a gift she had learned through years of carrying her own stories, her own broken pieces, her own resurrection. Their nights were woven like desert tapestries, threaded with quiet glances, with unspoken truths, with the delicate grace of souls that recognized each other long before they met. And though the dawn rose gently over Dubai, painting the desert with hues of gold and amber, and the world awakened with restless whispers, stories spread across the city like drifting sand. Stories of a prince, a woman, an age the world could not understand. And though the voices grew louder, though the curiosity sharpened like desert stones, their bond stood untouched, quiet, unshaken beneath the widening sky. The 60-year-old woman walked through the garden, her steps slow, filled with grace, carrying histories only time could carve. And Fazza followed her path, feeling the pull of her presence, the anchor she had become, the truth that lived within her silence. He watched her breathe in the morning air, saw how sunlight rested gently on her silver strands, and in that moment he felt something deeper, a reverence that words could not hold, Their love was not a spark, not a rush, but a flame steady and ancient, a warmth that lived beneath the surface of their souls. She gave him the wisdom of years carried with dignity, and he offered her the softness of a heart that had long remained hidden. Together they formed a balance the world could never measure, a harmony shaped not by youth, but by understanding. The rumors grew, shadows stretched, eyes peered from every corner of the kingdom, but they met each storm with calm hearts, for their truth was stronger than noise, stronger than time, stronger than the doubt of a city that could not grasp the beauty of their connection. One evening they stood on a terrace overlooking the endless dunes. The sky glowed with fading sunlight, and the desert breathed its ancient sigh. He stood beside her, their shoulders almost touching, their hearts woven in silence. She did not speak, for she knew he carried questions, fears, weights placed upon him by a world too eager to judge. And he knew she carried wounds of her own, echoes of years she had walked alone, years she had offered her strength to others, years filled with stories she rarely shared. Yet together they felt lighter, as if their burdens melted into the warm desert wind. The truth of them lived not in words, but in gestures, in glances, in the way their spirits leaned toward each other with ease. He reached for her hand, and she allowed his fingers to find hers, softly, delicately, as though the whole world depended on that single touch. And perhaps it did, for in that touch lived freedom, acceptance, home. The world might never understand, but they no longer needed it to. Their connection was their own, a secret carved not by fear, but by fate, a story written long before they met, waiting for the right moment, the right hearts, the right breath of desert wind. As night settled once more over Dubai, the towers shimmered like distant stars, but their world remained small, just the two of them. A prince and a woman whose years had shaped her into something rare, something fierce, something beautifully human. He rested his head against her shoulder, finding peace where the world expected none, and she closed her eyes, feeling his heartbeat, steady,